And then, of course, I'm thrilled beyond belief that Mario Testino is with us here in Gstaad. And maybe I'll just say in 2 words how this exhibition came about. I have loved Mario Testino's work for many, many years. I've been a great admirer of his work. And I always felt that whenever I looked at the work by Mario Testino, there's an energy, there is a beauty, there is something magical about it. And I don't know, whenever I look at a Testino show, I feel energized and I feel lifted. And that has been consistent ever since I saw his work for the first time and had the privilege of organizing or being involved in several exhibitions. The first one was exactly 20 years ago at Phillips in New York. We did a show, and it was the same in February 20 years ago.
Incredible.
It was a huge success. It was called Out of Fashion, and it was taken from the fashion photography that Mario had done until then. Then we did 2 shows in London. One which...
Obsessed by You.
Obsessed by You. And, and every photograph, one was obsessed when one looked at it. And it was also a huge success. The third one we made was in London, was also, it was Kate Who. Kate Who, you know, of course, who is Kate. And it coincided with a book that came out by Taschen on Kate Moss. And so it was entirely only images, photographs that Mario took of Kate Moss. That was sensational. And our 4th exhibition together was in Dubai. And they were so excited to have the chance to do an exhibition of Mario that they built a temporary structure specifically for the exhibition. So in the design district in D3, they built a beautiful structure. They built a fabulous temporary restaurant and coffee shop next to it. And this was the place where all the action was. And equally, it went very well. And then we hadn't seen each other for a little while. And I bumped into Mario in Rome when he was preparing an incredible exhibition, which is, for me, unquestionably the best exhibition he's done of his work done over the last few years, his most recent work. And it was called A Beautiful World. It was at Palazzo Bonaparte, huge success. There were queues around the building for people to see it. And Mario told me, so I was fascinated by this new work of Mario, because only the greatest artists get better and better with age. So Titian, for instance, or Cy Twombly, there are some artists who, the older they get, the better they get. And I think that is clearly the case with Mario. And the Rome exhibition was sensational. But then Mario told me, but I've done some works in Switzerland. I said, really, in Switzerland? And I had never seen things. So you showed me then some of these images. And then I felt these images have to be shown in Switzerland. And that's, then the question was where? And as you know, all galleries, especially the Patricia Low Gallery, they have a program which is years and years ahead. And so I called Patricia and said, listen, there is these Swiss works by Mario, which have never been seen by anybody, but it has to be now, and it has to be not in bad months, it has to be in February in Gstaad. And Patricia made miracles, and she created a hole or a slot in her very, very busy program. And that's how it all happened. So this is a long, long, long intro, but let's start with the last. Tell me, how did you get to do these works that we see upstairs that are focused on Switzerland? And it's only part of the work that he did in Switzerland.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mario. Sorry. Thank you, Simon, and thank you, dear Patricia. It's true that it's been a long time working together, and it's true that it's great to have everybody tell you that something is nice, but when you have Simon de Pury telling you this is good, it means something. So this project, that is my new project called A Beautiful World, I decided in 2007, I found an archive of traditional dresses of my country, Peru. And I mean, of course, I've looked so much at photographers from the past, like Irving Penn or Avedon. They documented their times incredibly, and we learned from it. When I arrived from South America to Europe, apart from the beach, I really didn't know that much of anything. And it's a lot to learn, all different countries. And I thought that it was my turn when I found this archive to also present it to the world, to be able to see something that not even Peruvians knew that we had such an archive. And hopefully we're about to publish a book with 135 images. But when I finished this project in 2017, I needed to find something else that would entertain me, because I worked 45 years as a fashion photographer. And even though it was the most amazing time of my life, it's true that everything that I did, there was somebody else telling me yes or no. I mean, a comment that I often got was that my pictures were too colorful, because I worked in America and in England, and all my editors wanted all my pictures to be desaturated. So to find the freedom to do what you want to do is really a treasure. And I decided to travel the world and do this project, doing all the traditions, which include animals and plants. And to my great surprise, a cinematographer friend of mine that collaborates with me, Victoria Clay from Mexico, sent me some pictures of these very odd-looking characters walking down the snow, and she told me it was Switzerland. I was like, this can't be Switzerland, because Switzerland is, I don't know, I imagine Switzerland very much Julie Andrews, you know, like pretty dresses, but these were quite aggressive-looking characters. And seeing these pictures, I decided it would be interesting to start looking at these. And so I've come a couple of times to Switzerland. I came here to Gstaad, where I started with a farm and doing the cows that seem to have been the most popular. Quite interesting, from Giselle to Kate to the cows. It's a very interesting, I wonder whether I'm looking in the right places or not, but it's quite great to see that people have reacted to it and embraced it and loved it, because I find a lot of the times we are exposed to many things and we look, but we don't actually look, or maybe what would be the right, we see, but we don't look, you know, we don't pay attention. And lately, doing animals, for me, I've been very, very surprised that I wasn't really looking. I didn't even know that there were so many varieties of cows, sheep, cockerels, and I've been discovering and doing them constantly. So that's my arrival to your country.
Yes. No, it's so interesting what you say, you know, looking without taking it in. And I'm always fascinated how, you know, we all go to the same places and every single one of us sees something else. And there is nothing more exciting to see the world through the eyes of somebody whose sense of beauty and his artistic talent you admire. And therefore, I love, of course, Switzerland, and I love spending time with cows. My family have a farm in the canton of Neuchâtel, and I'm so used to spending the night and just hearing the cowbells. And for me, it's the most beautiful sound in the world. It's just so relaxing. It's just to hear the cowbells. And but when I saw the cows through your eyes, I fell in love. I thought, my God, these cows are amazing. They're fantastic.
Well, you know, it's interesting. In fashion, I spent the morning getting the girls ready, because I participated in the hair and the makeup. I would sit down next to the model and the makeup artist and say, this line needs to go up a little bit, and that'll change. And really, that changed the look of the girl. And when my retouchers that I work with started hearing me talk about the eyelashes of the cows, they were a little bit worried. They were worried I was going to kill them a little bit, because they are quite like mine, actually. Not at all. They just got down. But it's interesting not participating and looking. You know, that's a new thing for me. Because in all my fashion work, I participated on everything. I decided the shoe, the bag, the hair, the makeup, if the length of the skirt was right or not, if it needed to go up. We had seamstress to change everything. And I like to prepare everything before I started shooting, so that once I started shooting, my concentration was on the light, the girl, and basta, not whether I was liking. But to start looking at elements like in the Swiss group upstairs, and you just don't participate on the styling or on the making, you just participate in elevating them to the highest, to where I see them, with my light, with my posing, with my...
Yes, that in fact is something that intrigues me very much, because for your fashion photography, you had the most incredible setup, you know, lots of assistants, and you had all this.
Sorry, something just fell. Yes. I am quite, I don't even know where it was. Sorry.
That's okay. You kept the magnet on.
Just to introduce you to James.
We're back in a minute.
So when you did your fashion photography, you had this whole team of assistants, and everything was being arranged for you in the studio, so you could do work in the optimal conditions. And then you came and took your photographs. And we focus here on your work done in Switzerland, but you have traveled all over the world and have shown things that nobody has seen really, and that's why the title of your show in Rome was so appropriate, A Beautiful World. Seeing the world through your eyes, it really is a very, very beautiful world. And so how did you manage to take such unbelievably well taken pictures of nature, of animals, and of, you know, people living in all parts of the world without possibly having the same conditions?
Well, you know, we do a lot of preparation beforehand, of course. You know, I mean, every single person or element that I photograph, I research deeply and make sure that I like it before I get there. I mean, behind me we have these eagles that I photographed in Mongolia, and so they were telling me that I couldn't get close in as I wanted to them. They wanted me to use a long lens because they can be a bit aggressive, but I really like working with a standard lens, which is roughly how our eye sees. So I needed to be at a distance like you are from me right now. And the hunters, which each have their own eagle, were a little bit worried. So I said to them, no, just put them there in this piece of wood. And now I want them to look at me. And they're like, hello. But, you know, it's funny, it's noise. Noise is a great thing because I worked a lot with animals in my fashion pictures and children, which everybody didn't like because it's a lot to control. But I noticed that you just need to raise your voice at a certain level, and children, animals react. And so did they. They were very interested in what I was saying. But I don't know, I think that it's a lot of appreciation in a way. You know, if you love something, you find a way. I mean, I was saying the other day on a conversation I had with the gallery that when you put a pair of heels on a girl, a jewel, or do her hair, she holds herself in a different way and she acts in a different way. It's as men, we don't really know, but if we put a black tie, we do act a bit different. And I was wondering, because lately in social media, I see a lot of animals. We're being constantly shown that they come to ask help of a human in a moment of need. I mean, I've seen whales or dolphins coming to boats and asking them for help to take off something that they've been trapped into, or folks coming to a house in the country and they take the person and their cub or their child is in need and they take them to the house. So there is some communication between animals and humans. And I was wondering whether these cows that get decorated with these flowers, do they actually feel that they are being paraded and that they... I mean, I actually thought of calling the show Beauty Queens. But then when I saw the guards upstairs, the Guild of Guards, I thought maybe it's not a good title for the show. But the cows end up being like beauty queens, and I wonder whether they actually register that or not.
It's fascinating as observation because I am convinced they do feel something. I mean, you see it on your cows; they're really proud. I think one of the beauty queens, you see the whole decoration. I mean, she probably just won the big prize, and when you do a party, I think the dress code is very, very important because we all are bored to get dressed up for a special occasion because it's an effort. And but at the end of the day, it makes all the difference. It changes
completely.
everything. If everybody is very elegant in black tie, you will behave very differently than if you just come in sweatpants. And so I think it has an influence, and whether we are humans or animals, the same thing. So that I thought was really fascinating. And have you participated at the défilé of all the cows?
Well, I haven't, but I was saying that in most of these photographs that I do, is not that I go when the festivities are happening. I usually go out of season to have the exclusivity of the attention to myself. Even in Brazil, when I wanted to photograph the carnivals, they organized me a 300 people carnival just so that I could do it. It's funny because I did the same with the cows, and we were worried that the flowers wouldn't be the same as in the time of the festivities because it wasn't spring, it was in the beginning of the winter. And but yes, it's funny, I'm less into the actual festivity and I'm more into the document outside of the festivity. I don't know, I guess it just gives me space to think and work and direct and control.
Yes, one thing I've always loved in your work is, of course, the individual images and portraits of people, but also your group works. For me, there's no better artist to photograph groups of people together. And there's this great tradition in British painting, you call them conversation piece painting, in the 18th century. The Arthur Davis or Constable were great conversation piece artists because you have whole families or a whole group of individuals all on the same picture. And here I look at the back of this room where is one work where you have, I haven't counted how many people are on it, but...
And how many you don't see that are there, and maybe they're crying today that they weren't shown when I did the picture. I mean, I was thinking yesterday, what that person that is looking into the background thinks when all you can see is his back and the back of his hair. But that's what creates depth. No, and when I arrived to England, all I could do was go to museums to train myself and look. And when I did the Prado in Madrid, I would go, especially just to expose myself to groups. I like groups, and I've been very lucky that, here in Gstaad is not so strange for people to speak 4 or 5 languages, but in the fashion business, it's not everybody that speaks a lot of languages. And I liked doing the groups with people from different nationality because I would say to them, when I speak in French, it's just for you 2. When I speak in Portuguese, it's for you 3. When I speak in, and that way I could control it because the hardest thing in groups is that if you want to say to the girl on the left, turn your head right, the entire group goes like that, and you're like, no, you have to stay left. So the languages help, but...
This picture in particular reminds me of a album cover with Jimi Hendrix in the 60s. So none of you will remember because you were not around, but I was.
I was too.
And there was, in those days when you had a LP, you would open it up and all that, and there were all these ladies grouped in this Jimi Hendrix cover. And I remember looking at it and I thought, this is amazing. Yeah. And while listening to the genius of Jimi Hendrix at the same time, it was something incredible. And
it's always interesting where you get your inspirations because many of them you just don't know. No, they come just in passing. And I think our brain takes a lot of things unconsciously and they just stay in the back of our mind. And when you need them, they come out, no? Because the way of doing groups is, there's so many configurations that you can go. You can go linear, you can go in a V shape inwards or outwards. I mean, it's endless, no? And this is something that at work people always get surprised because I have 20 people and it's a natural thing. I don't really know why I do it like that, but I just go, you here, and all of a sudden it's done. It's very instinctive. And I guess in a way I've always been very instinctive. You know, I just go with the flow.
That's because you're a Scorpio.
Exactly, both of us.
It takes one to know one. So I'm a Scorpio too. And Mario was born on the 30th of October. So he's an early Scorpio and I'm a late Scorpio. And but
well, the interesting thing is that you came up to me at the memorial of Helmut Newton, who was born the 31st of October. And you said to me, now it's your turn. And it was interesting because that was maybe 23,
Yes.
4 years ago. 4 years ago.
Yes. No, Helmut Newton, I have loved his work, still do, very, very much so.
Same
and I
here.
loved as an individual. And it is extraordinary. Yes, you were born one day apart. One thing that intrigues me, because when you have your portrait done, generally, I always ask people, if you could choose a living artist to do your portrait, whom would you dream of doing your portrait? And then, you get all sorts of replies. But most artists, if they do your portraits, they may do a very, very strong portrait, but it may not be a very flattering portrait, because when you ask somebody to your portrait, you want to look the best that you could possibly ever look. And why are there all these filters on Instagram? Because everybody wants to make really sure that they look even better than what they would dream to look like. And so, whereas if you have your portrait done by an artist, you have to surrender and you have to know, I will accept, it's better to have a great work of art and maybe not look so good, but at least there is a great work of art, rather than have something. Whereas you combine the two things, I feel that all the very well-known figures that you have photographed, they do look the best they can possibly look, and yet they are great artworks. You see, you can combine the beauty with creating something which is powerful.
Well, I guess I'm a sucker for people. I like people, I mean, I grew up with my mother. She had 3 sisters, and I remember that people started taking pictures at that time, and they judged people according to how they looked. Oh, he's terrible. Or, cancel him. And I guess I didn't want to be rejected. I wanted to be liked, or that's how that could be one reason. Now, the other reason is that beauty is something that I am attracted by, and I seem to know. I mean, it's pretentious to say this, but I notice when I work with hairdressers and makeup artists in fashion, I would say lift this, lower this, and for some reason they just look better. I don't know why, but proportions. I was a mathematician at heart. I left school. I went to economy school. My favorite subjects, believe it or not, were algebra and trigonometry, which everybody hated, all my friends, and I love them. And I guess taste is associated to mathematics because it's all to do with proportions. It's like symmetry, or we're constantly balancing out things. And it's an obsession, really. And sometimes I remember seeing a clairvoyant once, and she told me that she would get on the train, and she really didn't want to get on the train because she would see what was happening to other people. And this happens to me at dinner parties where I'm sitting opposite people and I'm like, couldn't she lower that or take that or change that hair or change? And it's like, I don't want to even, but it's just a natural in me. I don't know why.
Yes. I didn't realize that you were fascinated by clairvoyance, because I am.
Well,
that's a whole topic altogether. But
I went through a period where I really had no work. In fashion, you become the flavor of the month when you are young, bringing something new. But unless you have something else to replace that new when it's no longer new, you're out. And so I was living between London and Paris, and Christian Lacroix said to me one day, I'm going to give you this present to see this clairvoyant that told him when he was at art school that he would be a fashion designer, and told her the initials JP and CL of the houses that he would be a designer, Jean Patou and then Christian Lacroix. And so I went to see this lady, and I have to say the things she told me, she was so sharp. She said in 2 months, you get a call from a magazine overseas and you never look back. And it was like that. It was like an avalanche since then, no? But
wow, you have her name?
unfortunately, she disappeared. But she was above Stresa in Paris.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes. No.
Everybody looking for it.
Yes. No, I'm totally fascinated by that. And of course, it can be addictive, like many, many things. But no, that's it's extraordinary now. It's completely put me on a tangent.
On a phone call, quickly.
But one incredible thing that happened to us once, I remember I was sitting with I was sitting with Mario. We were sitting in the coffee shop of the Ritz Hotel. And Mario tells me, I would really love to meet Benedict Taschen, the owner of Taschen Books. Then I said, oh, but he's one of my oldest, dearest friends. I've known him forever. Then he said, really, do you think you could introduce me? And I said, I would love to do that. And so I take my cell phone and I call Benedict and I say, hello, Benedict, where are you? And he said, oh, I'm in Paris. And I said, oh, really? And where are you in Paris? And he said, I'm just walking into the Ritz. And then I say, can you take 2 steps to the left, go up the bar? And there was Benedict Taschen. And
Hello.
So I thought, and how many books have you done with Benedict Taschen?
9, I think.
9 books, which are all incredible. That it's... I love the titles of the books. One is called, tell me some of the titles.
The Kate Moss was called Kate Who or not? I think it was called Kate Who, but Alive. It's just that I've done 20 books, so it gets a little complicated in words. But I did the Diana book with him. I did In Your Face with him, Private View. I always like to find a title that sort of says what is that moment, no? My pictures, my first book was called Any Objections? Well, Mario Testino, Any Objections? Because people had this idea of one being very goody-goody, but nobody's goody-goody. I was curious about everything, and I wanted to show all the things that I was curious about. Of course, I had to quickly do a second book because my mother kept on saying, I want to see this book, and it was full of nudity and quite back in the day. So I did a book called Front Row Backstage, which was on fashion shows because, believe it or not, at the time when I was becoming a known photographer, I took my camera everywhere, and I was the only person in the front row sitting, taking pictures. Nobody took pictures. Today you go to a fashion show and there isn't one person that isn't with their phone like that, filming and taking pictures of everything. But at the time, it was like a privilege, really, to do it like that.
What intrigues me is, you have photographed a lot of celebrities, and celebrities, we are all familiar with them from seeing them, constantly in social media and photographs in magazines and newspapers, television, etc. And yet, your vision is so strong that there are several celebrities that, if I think of them, instantly, it is your image that's come to mind. And so, Kate Moss is an example. I mean, she has been photographed by every great photographer. She's been, photographed endless times. She's been painted by so many artists. She's really a very, very important visual icon of our time. And yet, when I think of her, the first images that come to mind are the ones you took of her. Or Princess Diana. Princess Diana has been photographed endless times, and of course she was pursued by paparazzis, etc., as we know. And when I think of her, the images that are ingrained in my mind are the very moving portraits that you did of her, where you managed to catch her essence, her vulnerability, and the beauty in that vulnerability. is nowhere expressed better than in the portraits that you did of Princess Diana.
Well, you know, she, of all those celebrities, she was the one that arrived on her own, no entourage at all to the shooting. And I had been told that I had to call her ma'am, but I said to her, you know, I feel a bit weird because you're younger than me, and don't look like my mom at all. So she said, no, just call me Diana. But I said to her, you know, I don't want to be rude because I think you look great, but I would like to just change your hair and your makeup a little bit, and I brought my team from Paris. And she answered, you're the expert. I put myself in your hands. I was really surprised because most people want to look like they already look and they know themselves. But she was funny. I mean, it's such a shame she left us so quickly, because I was taking a picture of her standing in front of me, and I said to her, I would like you just to dance and smile at the same time. So there I am, I get my camera, I look at her, no movement. And I was like, no, you know, I meant dance and laugh. And she was like, I know what you mean. I'm just not Peruvian. I'm English. And I was like, oh. So, yeah, so many memories of that moment, of that day, you know, because people in England describe me as Diana's favorite photographer. But I only knew her for one day, really. I mean, I saw her a couple of times to go through the pictures, and she said that her children had said that was the true her. And yeah.
I mean, you have done numerous photographs of royals. I mean, a number of royal families have commissioned you to, or asked you to be the photographer photographing them.
Well, you know, it's interesting. They asked me in England a few times, institutions, to photograph the Queen when she was still alive. But the Queen couldn't accept because, you know, she couldn't be behind Diana. She had to be before everybody. And I was very surprised when King Charles asked me to do his portrait for Vogue, because I thought that was very courageous in a funny way. The funny story of that shoot is that I was asked to do him on the 11th of September one year, and I was in New York for 2 weeks, booked every day, but I had the 11th free. And I was so hysterical of work and excited that he would ask me, that I thought I can take the flight on the 10th in the evening, arrive on the 11th at 6 in the morning, do the picture, and take the flight back to New York. It's nothing. And but of course, it was the 11th of September of that dreadful year where I arrived late because there had been a storm, and so the sitting was canceled, because when you photograph the royals, there is a 15-minute slot they give you. I don't know how they come up with so little time for such an important thing. But so I missed, and everybody was like, my God, and you have to go back to New York this afternoon, and you didn't even do the portrait. But of course I went to my office, and it was the World Trade Center tragic day, so I ended up staying. But still, like that, he asked me another time, and I did it. And then I did him with his kids for Christmas cards. I did him in uniform. I did him when he married Camilla. Yeah, I did a lot.
What are your dreams going forward? Because you have photographed so many different things. Is there kind of an unrealized project?
Well, you know, it's funny. In all these trips I've done, I started this project A Beautiful World on my own. I did like 20 countries where I paid everything myself. We were a team of 6 people. And then one day I was asked by a lady from Iraq that her and her family and friends of the family wanted to have Iraq be a part of my project, and that they wanted to sponsor me going there. And I went and I did Iraq, and then I started getting all these approaches by different countries for me to document their countries as well. I did Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Kurdistan, a lot of tans. Hence I am tan, no. But I'm very excited by discovery. So my dream is to go to Iran. But they had planned, they had helped me to go. I mean, even though everybody said it was too dangerous. But I don't know, I find the Persian culture one of the most sophisticated things I've seen around the world are Persian, and yeah, I would love to do them. But I think that I've done 36 countries, if I get it right, and I think the world has 170. So there's some missing.
Still some to go.
And that's what I'm really enjoying at the moment.
Yes.
It's incredible. You discover things that, yeah, you never thought that you would be there. I mean, going to the Garden of Eden, quite an amazing thing, you know, when you've heard of it all your childhood, but you never.
I think one aspect about you that is lesser known is that, first of all, you have worked very closely with a large number of contemporary artists, because you were an artist in a way. And so it would be interesting to hear a bit about some of the collaborations that you've had with different artists. And then I'd like to speak about you as a collector, because you have been very, very good at discovering talent. And Mario has a great eye, as we know, but it's not just expressed in his own work, but it's expressed in the choices that he has chosen so many artists very early, before they were more widely known. And you really had the knack of, in a way, discovering talent. So,
it's a big question. But anyhow, yes, I've been curious because the way that I started collaborating with artists was that when I started buying, I had this idea that fine artists looked at fashion photographers as a lesser form of art, because we are controlled by commerce. You know, we're not totally free as artists. And what surprised me was that when I started buying art, the artists would write to me messages on the paintings saying that they were so thrilled that I was looking at them. And I didn't really know at the time that all contemporary fine artists look at all the other fields, and fashion is one of them, where you do get a lot of inspiration. There's a lot of creativity. I would say that maybe I'm not the most creative, because I'm more into the person when I do a fashion photograph than into the whole concept. You know, people get very conceptual. And when I started doing whole issues, basically I was on contract with American Vogue for like 24 years, and I did French Vogue and British Vogue. They were the Vogues that, as a fashion photographer, they were like the great Vogues to do. But I was curious to do whole issues, and all the other Vogues approached me, and most photographers turned them down. And I decided that it would be interesting to do a whole issue for these different Vogues: Vogue India, Vogue China, Vogue Japan, Vogue Brazil, Vogue Spain. And so I decided to start doing once or twice a year a whole issue. And when I did the whole issue, I realized that the art pages, that magazines, they always used to do an art section. And I decided that I would interpret that section by giving the artists my pictures and letting them do whatever they wanted to the picture. And I ended up doing Urs Fischer, George Kondo, John Carin, Jenny Saville, Cecily Brown. I mean, I did quite a lot of them because I bought them, so I knew them. And also, I was very lucky to have a gallerist called Sadie Coles guide me from the beginning, really, of my... She was the first one. She was quite tough on me and very mean sometimes, but very helpful, because meanness makes you realize that you've done a mistake. But so she guided me, and through her I got to meet, of course, she's one of the best gallerists, I think. She has a
I agree.
Impeccable eye, no? And yeah, that's I lost my, I don't even know.
No. Anyway, that's how you became a great collector as well as being a great artist. I think we are nearly at the end, because we wanted the conversation to be only 45 minutes, so that you would have 15 minutes to ask any questions you may ask from Mario Testino. So why don't we start the question session? Yes.